President Trump just made one of the biggest pro-gun decisions of his career, and that's not hyperbole.
We will win, and we will win, and we will win.
What we're going to talk about today is something so striking and contrasts his first administration so differently. And that's kind of what I want to focus on. I think it's very interesting because what the Trump administration just did for gun owners, the deregulation that they're doing, does not mirror what they did in the first administration. So item for item, they are two totally different things. It's almost like Trump, in a way, President Trump was like, hey, I'm going to apologize to gun owners. I'm going to make up for that. He didn't issue a formal apology, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and I just want to give you the opportunity. Is there anybody you'd like to apologize to right now yourself?
No.
No?
But it is kind of a motion to say, hey, we're going a different direction this time. This is fantastic news. Regardless of how you feel about Trump or not, this is great news for gun owners. This is deregulation. This is the restoration, finally, of the rights, of our rights, that should have never been stripped in the first place. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. There's no other president that would have even considered this, or Department of Justice. None of them would have considered this. So, big deal. That's what I think, but of course I want to hear what you think too. I'd really like to hear from y'all the difference that you're seeing from this Trump 2.0 to Trump 1.0 when it comes to gun rights. Let me know what you think down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So we're going to refer to these things as FRT. We're going to use the acronym. You can Google it. There's a reason I'm doing that. It's not on me, but there you go. FRTs, pretty much everybody knows what they are. If you don't, that's fine. Just Google it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, this is not new technology, by the way. Thomas Allen Graves started this back in the 70s with like a Colt revolver. Then he moved on to a Ruger 1022, and then to like a Bersa Thunder in the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. That's when it was introduced to the AR platform. But that's when you start to see more attention brought to it, rising in popularity, and one of the scapegoats that can be used in order to push for more regulation through the ATF. At least that's what the previous administration did. It's a way to circumvent Congress and basically use the ATF for your political gain. If you don't agree by now, this is why the ATF really is seen as a point of contention, and rightfully so, with a lot of gun owners, including myself. So they used FRTs as a way to push for additional restrictions, essentially treating them like full autos. Now, if you don't know the way this works, it is one trigger pull, one round. Just like any other firearm on the planet, right? Most of which in the United States, semi-automatic. The difference is it has a little spring. So it resets the trigger, as long as you have pressure, resets the trigger, so you can fire a little bit quicker. And what are most gun owners going to use this for? Well, it's not what the media would tell you. It's not even what politicians on the other side would tell you, that it's going to lead to all of these mass tragic events. No, they're going to use it at the range. They're going to go shooting with their buddies. They're going to have a good time. And yeah, there you go. That's what's going to happen. And there's proof of that because there hasn't been a single documented event I can think of where FRTs were actually used. But there is a documented event of a gun owner that was charged with having 4 of these items. In 2022, Daniel Augusto was charged with having 4 of these FRTs, along with unregistered firearms, making false statements, a whole host of things that honestly gun owners should never have to be confronted with. That may be a discussion for another day, but he was charged with having 4 of these devices. Now, in July of 2024, a federal judge said, hey, the ATF's ruling here is actually arbitrary and capricious. Basically saying to the ATF, you're full of shit. You're coming up with stuff on the fly that does not have any kind of historical context to back it up. You can't regulate one day and then ignore the next. Regulate one day, ignore the next. That's not how these things work. They got to be based in facts with scientific research to actually back it up. And they couldn't. Just like the whole bump stock ordeal, right? This is why I say it's so wildly different between Trump 2.0, Trump 1.0. Remember, Trump 1.0 had bump stocks. After Las Vegas, knee-jerk reaction. Probably one of the points, even back then, where I was like, dude, Trump isn't upholding his part of the deal by doing this. And rightfully so. That was the truth, and that still sticks with a lot of people to this day. And I totally understand that, even though bump stock ordeal has finally been resolved, it still put a lot of gun owners in an unnecessary position they should have never found themselves in. A simple device changes nothing about the gun, changes nothing about the classification. A very anti-gun thing to do, to look at a simple tool, a device, an accessory, blame that thing instead of blaming the person that does it. Fortunately, we've come a long way from that, because the bump stock, the FRT, kind of do the same thing, right? They allow you to fire a little bit quicker, but in practical senses, it's not really that great. Most gun owners know why. FRTs may be a little bit more practical, actually, I think, but anything that hurts the accuracy to your rifle makes it more of a novelty than an actual usable tool. But even if it's only seen as a novelty, or it's a super useful item, it is still seen as an important part of the Second Amendment. Some people don't think so. Some people think the 2A only protects the firearms. Some people think it only protects certain types of firearms, which is even worse, but it encompasses everything. And I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. So if you really don't agree with this type of stuff, please, I encourage you to listen to what I'm about to tell you and why this stuff is so important. They say, well, why does this matter? How does this lead to gun control? Well, very similar in states where you will see California, your Colorados, your Oregons, your other states, New York. They always start with one thing and it kind of trickles down, right? It's the snowball effect, because they know that FRTs and bump stocks, really no documentation of either being used, maybe, yeah, in Las Vegas, of course, very tragic thing, but let's be honest, that stuff is not happening a lot, especially considering how many are out there. It's kind of like the pistol brace thing. It's like, very rarely are law-abiding gun owners, actually never have you seen a law-abiding gun owner do anything like that, because once they break the law, they're no longer law-abiding. The point is, once they get one thing that they know is kind of like just like a scary item that they can get a bunch of support behind, like an AR-15 for instance, then they look at the statistics maybe a year later and they're like, oh, well, this really didn't drop crime that much, because they're not really used in a lot of crimes. They already know this, but then they can say, you know what, now we need to regulate handguns. Now we need to have micro stamping. Now we need to have smart guns. This is why FRTs, bump stocks, pistol braces are all super important things. You don't have to own a single one of them to understand that this is an important move that the Trump administration made. And it perfectly represents, in my opinion, a stark difference in how Trump 2.0 is treating firearms, and understanding that it's not just about saying that you're going to protect Second Amendment rights. It's not even about just doing that, but it's also about the restoration to rights that should have never been stripped from us in the first place. This is a fantastic move, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold them down.